In December 2016, just before a scheduled show out of state, Youngboy was arrested by US Marshals before touching stage at a show in Austin, Texas, in dramatic scenes that were even caught on camera. Youngboy was charged on suspicion of attempted first-degree murder, apparently stemming from an alleged drive-by shooting. Story goes Youngboy and a number of other men that he was affiliated with, including Terlondrick Norman, aka NBA Self-Paid, aka Big B, aka NBA Boomer, who was actually later arrested for his involvement in this shooting all the way in 2019, along with NBA Ben 10, real name Ben Fields, and possibly another unnamed person depending on which articles you read, I'm not sure. The lads were actually accused of opening fire in a South Baton Rouge street, targeting a group of people standing in the front yard of a house around 2000 block of Kentucky Street. Apparently during this incident, an unidentified passenger of their own car was actually hit in the neck, but luckily survived and was found by police later on in the car a few blocks away.
Police find a man suffering from a gunshot wound to the neck, saying he was shot in a different neighborhood just a few streets away.
Apparently this happened in the midst of a handful of other clap-ins in the area, all happening within space of 2 days. It's been suggested by many that Youngboy and his crew were actually out on the streets looking to avenge the slaying of Youngboy's 18-year-old cousin Boozilla, real name Keandre Ricks or NBA Boosie, who was apparently gunned down hours earlier. Remember, this is the same guy who had allegedly had a falling out with G-Money over a stolen pack. Running off with a pack? What, this innocent looking chap? I don't believe it. It seemed like Boozilla and the NBA boys had all made up and become friends again after Youngboy had fallen out with G-Money and the TBG crew, and further speculation seems to suggest that apparently this incident might have had something to do with Boozilla dropping a diss track calling out a TBG affiliate named Doosa. Now at this point I would just like to remind everyone that a lot of the information in this story is pure internet speculation, and since this incident and a lot of the things surrounding NBA Youngboy in this case haven't been definitively solved, we can't necessarily take everything we hear as fact. I'm just trying to feed you the information that's floating around out there on the internet. Now eventually a man named Trayshawn Coates was taken into custody for the Boozilla incident, while Doosa, real named Renard Clifton, ended up in jail on a different first-degree murder charge and the illegal use of a weapon the following year. And even then, apparently 24 hours after that retaliation incident that involved Youngboy and his boys, yet another drive-by took place on the same block as the Boozilla slaying, which left 2 homes riddled with bullets, with the police alleging a man named Derek Geist to be the driver, along with Coates, the accused triggerman in the Boozilla case only a day before, along with another man, Michael Onyedinma. Now for his involvement in the retaliation incident, Youngboy himself caught 2 attempted murder charges, and he was held on a $200,000 bond, as well as appearing in his mugshot wearing a fly-ass Burberry shirt that I only assume got him an additional charge for being a straight fashion killer. Now at the time, Youngboy was only 17 years old, but Louisiana is one of the few states in the US where 17-year-olds can be charged as adults. And so Youngboy spent December 2016 to August 2017 in the slammer. But at least for the fans it wasn't all bad, because whilst NBA Youngboy was incarcerated, his label got to work and re-released 2 of his projects. They dropped the reloaded edition of Before I Go, removing the songs Thug With Me, Change and All Night, and adding a 21 Savage remix of Murder, the track Bands, track Fact, where Youngboy apparently proved how many bands he has by waving them in a shopkeeper's face. Alright Youngboy, you're rich, I believe you. As well as the tracks How We Play It and the track Win or Lose, where he showed off just what it's like to get signed by apparently sticking a sign to his four-wheeler. Weird flex, but okay. The label also released a reloaded version of his Mind of a Menace 3 mixtape, removing the Murder remix with 21 Savage because they put it on the Before I Go mixtape, as well as taking off the tracks Life and Bootin' in this, and adding the tracks Just Made a Play featuring Moneybagg Yo and Blowin' Up. And so as Youngboy sat in jail and those tracks picked up heat in the streets, fans would eagerly await his release, which came after he copped a very generous plea agreement. Now eventually, to pretty much everyone's surprise, Youngboy was able to cut a sweet-ass deal, copping to the lesser charge of aggravated assault with a firearm. And whether you think it was record labels pulling strings, his newly acquired Illuminati membership card, or the simple banging of juju like Heady One, however you look at it, Youngboy managed a big finesse here and got his way out of jail. He was sentenced to a prison term of 10 years suspended and 3 years of active supervised probation, which essentially meant that he was able to get out of jail, but the potential to go back would always be following him around for a good decade. In addition to that, he was also ordered to pay a $5,000 fine, as well as doing 250 hours of supervised community service, which included apparently doing an anti-violence PSA, which to the disappointment of fans everywhere never seemed to actually surface publicly. And apparently during the sentencing, he had what was described as a tense but respectful back and forth with District Judge Bonnie Jackson. Apparently she admonished him for going out with his boys looking for trouble and finding it, and Youngboy, to his credit, kept his cool and took full responsibility for everything that had gone down in this incident. A pretty refreshing perspective compared to people like Shotty screaming "Treyway" to the judge. However, However, Judge Jackson went on to say she didn't care about Youngboy's celebrity status, and suggesting that his rap music wasn't necessarily helping the violence in the community that he was coming out of. Apparently, Youngboy interjected at this point, reminding her that nobody had actually died in the incident, with her clapping back saying that he's lucky he's such a bad aim, and that he wasn't facing first-degree M charges. And it is also worth pointing out that the court did hear about how Youngboy had been trying to make a difference in his community by looking after his mother and giving out school supplies, even if the judge did take a little bit of a dookie on him for having 3 kids at 17 years old. Damn, I didn't even have 3 friends at 17 years old. And in response to that frankly condescending dig by the judge, Youngboy had promised do right by his family. And for the record, I would like to point out that Youngboy really is a stand-up guy in this department. Apparently in 2018, he actually found out that one of those kids wasn't even biologically his, with him publicly saying on Facebook because of the man he is, he's going to continue to raise him like his own. So after his plea was accepted, Youngboy was released while he was awaiting sentencing. And so in August 2017, he was back on the streets jugging and musically finessing. Once he got out, he dropped his absolute banger of a song, Untouchable, that ended up hitting number 95 on Billboard. This had a music video that featured a cameo from his newest mentor, Meek Mill, telling him that if he doesn't leave Baton Rouge, he gon' die. Following the successful release of Untouchable and himself, he dropped his latest and seemingly most technologically advanced mixtape, AI Youngboy, in August 2017, hitting number 24 on Billboard. His next single, No Smoke, hit number 61, followed by a lucrative AI Youngboy tour. But unfortunately for Youngboy, the violence in Baton Rouge raged on, and it didn't take long for those feuds to rear their ugly heads once again.